Hey everybody, the question this week is why did Jesus turn water into wine, which we find in John chapter 2. Weddings in his day, in his historical context, were much different than the weddings that we experience today. They were still a time of celebration, but this time of celebration would last up to 7 days, up to 3 days if it was a widow being remarried, and running out of wine during this time of joy and celebration for these families, it would bring shame and dishonor to the family that was hosting the wedding. They would be considered a bad host. We see that the quality of the wine that he makes out of water is far superior to the wine that was served up until that point. Now, we also, if you look back in Jeremiah chapter 31, in verse 12, he prophesies that the Messianic age, which is when Jesus was here on earth, the Messianic age would be a time of plenty and a time of celebration. Now, I know for some people they get confused or they get a little off-put or upset thinking about Jesus making water into wine, and some go as far to suggest that the wine that he made was actually grape juice. But if you look at the original Greek, the same word for regular fermented wine is the same Greek word that they use for the wine that he made. Now, this is also the same Greek word that Paul uses in Ephesians 5:18 that condemns getting drunk, where he says, do not get drunk. Now, here's where the controversy is, if you will. Alcohol itself, alcohol in and of itself, in the Word of God, is not condemned, but the abuse of alcohol is. Now, this can apply to a vast number of things. There's things that are fine in moderation, but they're a problem when we make a mess of them as people and we abuse them. In Ecclesiastes 9:7, we're instructed to drink our wine with a merry heart. In Psalm 104, verses 14 to 15, it states that God gives wine that makes glad the heart of men. Amos in 9:14 discusses drinking wine from your own vineyard was a sign of God's blessing. Isaiah 55:1 encourages, yes, come buy wine and milk. So from those scriptures and other scriptures, it's clear that alcohol itself is not inherently sinful, but it is the abuse of alcohol, it is addiction, it is drunkenness that is sinful. So it's not fair and it's not correct to say that Jesus made grape juice, and it's also not fair and it's not correct to say that it would have been a sin for Jesus to create a drink that contained alcohol. So by him making this water into wine, that's not promoting drunkenness. That's like me buying you a car and then you going and driving it recklessly on purpose. It's not my fault and it's not the car's fault. It's your fault for abusing what you were given. So again, Jesus is not promoting drunkenness. If he was promoting drunkenness by creating wine out of water, then you could argue that he was promoting gluttony by multiplying the fish and the loaves. So creating the wine doesn't promote drunkenness because you are responsible for how much you consume. Now, also in this passage is that by Jesus attending this wedding, he's also placing his stamp of godly approval on the God-established covenant of marriage between one male and one female, biologically. It also shows that the blessings in our marriages come from God. They come from Jesus. Now, if you want to go even further, it also shows that the new wine in those new wineskins, if you've been following us as we walk through Luke, you know what I'm talking about. It shows that the new wine that Jesus offers is always better than what came before him.